This is the Afro Perspective Podcast, the home of over-opinionated young voices.
Okay, so here's an excerpt from an interview by Dr. Frances Cress-Welling. She's the author of a book called The ISIS Papers. I strongly recommend, if you are into reading, or much less even if you aren't into reading, take your time and read that book. It's very informative and it touches on a lot of subjects that we need to be talking about. So, yeah.
Goes into collapse. You see, families have to have mothers and fathers. If you take one father out of a neighborhood, you see, then the child who doesn't have a father can make up the difference with the other fathers. But when you take 90% of the fathers out by a dynamic, you see, you have really crippled the entire people. So that when the father is removed, and he cannot play the role as breadwinner, and the mother play the role as, the support giver of the emotional well-being of the children, then you're going to produce certain kinds of behavioral aberrations. If the mother is forced to be the breadwinner as well as the giver of emotional supports, you see, then the emotional supports go wanting. You can produce depression. You see, if a mother, if that balance is not there, the father as the breadwinner, the mother as the primary emotional support of the developing child, if that's not in place, then you can produce symptoms of depression in children. Now, if children are depressed, these are some of the things that they will do. If children are suffering depression and dependency deprivation, they will become preoccupied with sex prematurely, and so therefore we get teenage pregnancy. They will not have the necessary emotional supports to tackle academic work, so we get school dropouts. A sufficient degree of depression, somebody says, well, here, if you drink this, you won't feel so bad, little boy. Or if you take this drug, you won't feel so bad. You'll feel real cool. Do you see? And so that's the way I say that we get teenage pregnancy, we get school dropping out, and we get use of drugs. If you take large numbers of fathers out of a community and male children do not have fathers to model their behavior after and to lean against so that they gain strength and confidence in themselves as male children, then you will have children forming together in gangs, you see, engaging in destructive activity. So I see that all of these plays are, you see, coming about because the white king is, in our analogy, you see, put the black king in check. And black people have not understood these dynamics, do you see, or they knew something was happening and they were begging for it to stop, do you see, but it can't stop. And so I say that now, once we make this analysis of what the dynamic of white supremacy is really all about, then we have to go into certain kinds of behavior formation. And one of the kinds of behavior formations, because see, now we have an epidemic of teen pregnancy. And there's no way in the world that a teenager can rear a child to emotional maturity.
Okay, so do you want to back this with some stats?
Well, from what she just said, that's quite a scary synopsis of what can happen with black men being missed in the community. Because if you think from an Afro-Caribbean perspective in this country, so from the UK, I believe statistics are 59% of black Caribbean households in the UK are from a single parent family. So that's pretty much 60%.
Yeah, that's
of all households from a Caribbean
it's a statistical majority.
Yeah, and even if you look from, again, a mixed race perspective, it's 54%. So that's over half of those households are again single.
How does
parents.
that compare to other? Have we got any comparative statistics?
I believe the white counterparts are 22%.
So it's half.
It's less than half.
Yeah, less than half.
Less than half. Yeah, it's quite a lot less because if you round it down to 20% and look at 60, it's literally three times.
Scary.
Okay, yeah.
3 times more. Now, based off the behaviors that the doctor was talking about,
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
To the friends that you're around and seeing people that you know personally, and what she was saying about kids being over sexualized, hypersexual.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a one case fits all. But I think from a statistical standpoint, you can't argue with the statistics.
So let's just clarify on the fact that we are basing most of what we're saying on from a macro analysis perspective. So you might have individuals that fall into these categories but are not necessarily affected by, or the story is not necessarily all of these behaviors. So it's just to make it clear out there. Some people might be looking and saying, well, I didn't turn out that way. Yeah, you didn't turn out that way, but we're talking about the broader. When we're looking at our community, we need to look at our community and find answers to some of the questions that we ask, i.e., why is knife crime so high? Why is teenage pregnancy so high in the black community?
All right, so let's get into it. So if you say that 59% of the black Caribbean households in particular come from a single parent family, and then you look at the fact that boys are twice as likely to end up in jail if they come from a single parent family, that automatically becomes problematic.
Yeah.
So you're almost, again, it's not for any individual that is raising a child by themselves, but from a macro standpoint, if they're twice as likely to go to jail, that is something to be considered. That is a big risk as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely.
So,
Another statistic that she said was about the behavior of the children. So it says 85% of all children exhibit behavior disorder from fatherless homes. So that's something else that she touched on in that video that we just listened to as well.
So again, it kind of goes back to the point. It goes back to the point that the male is still very important in the household, and I feel that they are almost deemed not to be. And I think that behavior, that ideology, and that attitude potentially needs to be changed from our own standpoint as a man. As a man, if you're going out and creating children, you need to understand that you are important.
Yeah, you are essential, not just important.
Essential. That is the word. You are essential to that child's upbringing, both physically and mentally, economically, everything you can think of. You are, you are imperative that you should be there if you're going to have those children.
I think I'm just thinking, women being nurturers, women being the naturally being the nurturers and providers of the immediate care and emotional sort of growth and support that they give to children. Children tend to gravitate towards their mums more than their dads, because they don't see the provider. They don't go
the provider does.
They see the nurturer.
Right. If I use my own household as an example, I leave. I go to work. I leave.
So
and then I come back at 5 or 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
They see me for a couple of hours before bed.
But the person that they see
the most, they see their mum more time.
Is mum because she's cooking breakfast.
They won't
which
realize.
you might not necessarily be doing that.
They won't realize what I do until they amend themselves.
But I feel like in an unbalanced household, the woman is going to look at it as, well, the kids depend on me. If there isn't that provider,
that's a fact.
The kids I feed, I dress them up in the morning.
I do everything for them.
However, the role of the father then is diminished. It's not taken into consideration, and then the woman feels like, well, I can do it by myself because I'm doing all of this.
Well,
but can you do it all by yourself?
Well, you can, because it's being done, but it's problematic.
It's problematic.
So you can, and big up to all of the mothers out there doing their thing.
And we cannot, you can't
take that away from them. You're not necessarily doing 2 jobs at once, but you are doing more than you should be doing.
More than you should be doing. And when you're doing, in any work situation, when you're doing more than you should be doing, you might just end up falling short in some departments.
Yeah, because
Naturally,
it's like being
human.
overwhelmed.
Yeah, you're overwhelmed.
So you're having to provide emotional stability, physical stability, financial stability, just general welfare.
So I think when I was listening to the video, she said that it produces depression in kids, but more so, I think about the single mothers out there, right? I'll be honest with you, fam. When I have my kids here by myself sometimes, there can be a lot. And I have to sometimes say to mom, like, yo, how do you do it? Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And this is not being naive or anything. This is literally being like, okay, I see how kids are a lot. So when we look at the mental state of women that are raising children by themselves out there, how are they?
And then still going to work.
Yeah,
And they're still going to work.
Yeah.
Cleaning.
Probably not getting much sleep because you're doing all of those
Probably
things.
not getting much sleep.
Yeah.
So generally, are they in a position where they can
they're
be
doing what
the
they can.
best of themselves?
No, it's impossible.
It's a strain, though.
You're
It's a
doing
stretch.
you're doing what you can, but you're not giving your best because you can't.
Because you
give your
can't.
best.
It's just too much for you. If
It's like studying for an exam while working full time.
It's
Yeah.
a lot. And
Yeah.
it's hard.
It's-
It's hard to get full
you're
grades.
on a
full grades.
full-time course and you're working full-time and there's no give. Yeah, and something's
Something's
in it.
gonna-
You're either gonna fall asleep at work or
fall asleep
your
in
exam.
uni.
Yeah, your exam you're not gonna get as good a grades, and it's just how life goes. So I feel that again, if we're gonna go back to the males, there needs to be a responsibility there to make sure that when you are having these children, that you are trying to support and provide all of this for your children, because otherwise there is going to be a strain and you may leave these children in
Short.
Yeah. Okay. I want to cover one point and then we're gonna move across.
okay,
Alright, and it's probably gonna be very quick. So we're talking about the males and their responsibility, but we also have to look at mass incarceration.
yeah,
Parents in the black community. So it's all good as a saying that, you know, fathers that are not there, etc., but in previous podcasts we've already said that a black male is 9 times more likely to be arrested and 3 times more likely to go to jail. And the jail sentence that he's going to get is at least double of his white counterpart. How much of an impact is that going to have on our black community, especially from a UK perspective as a whole, when you know that we're getting locked up at 3 times the rate of our white counterparts, which almost marries into the 59% versus the 22%, by the way.
Do you know
Even
what,
though it doesn't, it does.
I think we might have to tie 2 points to this.
Go for it. I got time.
There's mass incarceration,
Yeah.
but also there's and this is a point that I've been thinking about, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but there's the narrative, and I believe it's a very lazy narrative that black people have been riding along with for a very long time.
I feel like
That
go on.
mass incarceration. All right,
Go on, just say.
I don't want to dismiss mass incarceration, but
Yes.
there's the lazy narrative that black people say the high crime rate and knife crime,
You have a responsibility yourself,
etc.
You have a responsibility yourself.
Black. I'm not going to use the word black on black crime.
Don't do that, please.
Yeah. Okay. Let's throw that. Let's throw that shit out the bin. Right. But there's this correlation that's been made between poverty and the crime rate in the black community.
Yeah.
I.e., all these youths are getting incarcerated because
Then
there's
they don't
no
earn and they don't.
yeah,
there's
there's
no
no resources, there's no community centers, etc., etc.
It doesn't.
But you made a good point earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
go on.
talk about that, right?
Yeah, let's go on and let's get into it.
I believe that, I mean, in hindsight, I've always kind of alluded to the idea that, yeah, the youths are out there, they ain't got nothing to do, etc. But then when I look at it, when we really, really, really look at it, let's look at ourselves as a people. What is our attitude towards education collectively as black people? How much attention and focus do we put towards making sure that our kids are educated?
But some of that is parenting, but a lot of that
Parenting, yeah. So yeah, we
the
talk
family
about
structure.
accountability.
Yeah.
So let's take accountability as parents. How much are we doing to make sure that our kids are
Educated, well.
A-star students, right?
It's interesting, you know, because there's a study, and I haven't got the exact statistics, but I can look them up afterwards. You'll find that black children do incredibly well when they start school. Like incredibly well. When they just start. When they just start school, they do incredibly well.
When does it start to
And then by the end of primary school. Yeah.
What?
I'm not going to comment.
Yeah, but you hear what I'm saying. By the end of primary school,
comment, but yeah.
and there are a massive arrays of issues of why that's happened. So obviously, one is definitely racism. Two is obviously you may be the only black person in the class and may feel away.
Right.
But three, obviously, when you were approaching the end of primary school, you're probably just about starting puberty at the same time. You're probably causing your parents a bit more hassle. And if they're not on you during that period of time,
Anton, let's be realistic about this, right?
I'm being realistic. These are all facts.
When we look at our generation,
Yeah.
our generation have never collectively put value. I'm talking about. I'm zooming in on Sheffield.
Right.
Our generation haven't necessarily put value to education to the point where some people just think, yeah, whatever.
Okay, and that's
so if you're. Some people will look at it as, well, I'm not educated, but I want my kids to go to university and everything, and they will do everything that they can to support the kids. But some people think, well, I didn't get no GCSEs and I'm alright in life, so do you know what I mean? I'm not going to check my kids' homework or whatever.
I agree with you. That was one of the points I was making. You're right there over there, yeah? That's one of the points I was making. If you're not on your kids by the end of primary school, then they're gonna fall. They can fall off. No, they're more like unless they're like an amazing child. And most children are not. You know, they go left and they go right. They're going to fall off after primary school.
And again, it goes into the whole single parent household where, if as a child you get an affirmation from two parents,
it's easy.
Yeah,
it motivates you even more to say, "Mom and Dad are proud of me."
Yeah, it's easier. I think it's probably also easier to keep an eye on them.
It's easy, because there's two of you. So again, if Mom's not so great in mathematics, but Dad's a math genius,
that's literally what it's like.
Yeah,
literally.
And if Mom's good at this, English literature, so the kids have got a balanced support system. If Mom is not an academic and she doesn't care about education, what's the chances Dad's gonna come and sit down in Mom's yard? And do maths if it gets a little bit complicated, and generally that focus on the child's educational development is diminished, and while that's diminished,
although I have seen, obviously we're talking on a mass scale because the statistics
on a mass scale,
I have seen on individual scales fathers do exactly that. So I've seen fathers take their sons, and when the sons are with them,
show me your homework.
Yeah, what have you? And I always feel sorry for the fact there's no playtime.
It's not about
why am I here and you're only getting
I've seen that.
You know them ones. I've seen a few. When a father's ready to rough up their children in them ways, it really can be.
Here's a problem. If you live with you live with your children.
Yeah.
Right. Now, imagine a father that has a child, to 2 women or 3 women.
Oh yeah,
4,
right?
It becomes a little bit more complicated. If you've got a 9 to 5, you've got a child there, a child there. It becomes a little bit more complicated for you to be consistent.
Yeah, you need to almost get them all at the same time and have all of the mothers in sync. Again, that goes back to the whole African value towards and village scenario, which you're not going to get in the westernized world. Right?
So it's almost like when you've got...
it's problematic.
It's problematic because you can't have a routine that you can say, this is enough for this child.
Brings back to the whole male attitude towards reproduction that we discussed.
Point 1.
Men don't think about this. You
don't think about it until you have it.
You don't think about it until you've got 2 or 3 children. You're like, okay, then, I'm gonna have to pick up this one from Handsworth.
You get to a certain
I'm gonna have to pick up that one from Hillsborough.
And by the time you get them all together, are you actually thinking about their homework? Are you thinking about their education?
The different ages, and it's very.
It's a lot. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Talking from a point of privilege here, but okay. Do you want to go on to the next topic?
What was the next?
The next topic is the big topic as far as I'm concerned, and it is. So we talked about male accountability.
Female accountability.
This is the Afro Perspective Podcast, the home of over-opinionated young voices.